It's Friday. Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Which seat will you take? It's the big question. Y'all remember that? Rebecca Black? That was... How come... I swear, at some point in time in every stream I've ever had, Rebecca Black's gotta come up. And then it inevitably leads us to talking about, like, the worst song on YouTube. What is the worst song on YouTube? And we actually found it. And I think we actually talked about it on the stream already. It's a song about a girl in a, like, she goes to church. God, what is that song called? Hang on. I gotta know. I gotta remember. It's on my other YouTube channel. What is her name? It's called, Red Dress. If you want to know what the worst song on YouTube is, it's called Red Dress by Sarah Brand. It's on my... Oh, I forgot my Elgato's broken. It's right now, it's up on my, the Morse Code, YouTube. Go check that out. Just watch that video. Just trust me. What's up, guys? How are you guys doing today? On this glorious Friday. I don't use TikTok, so sure, lol. I thought Twitter was bad. Can't imagine TikTok. TikTok? Okay, look, I have a love-hate with TikTok. Alright? I want so very badly to start using TikTok myself. But for some reason, something is holding me back, and I don't know what it is. Like, I'm just like... There's a really bad addiction that comes with it, and then the whole Chinese having all of your information thing really freaks me out. But I will say this, TikTok is a treasure trove of leftist cringe. And I love leftist cringe. I could watch it all day. Seriously. If you guys want to have an entire RSL on Friday dedicated to just reacting to TikToks, to leftist TikToks, I mean, libs of TikTok post them constantly. Right? So it's like there's no shortage of stuff to react to. It's just fun. Ben Shapiro has an entire series where he just reacts to TikToks. Like, it's that fun to do. So if you guys want an entire episode of RSL just dedicated to reacting to leftist TikToks, I'm 110% down. When it comes to country music, there are only two words you need to know. George Strait. Dude, I grew up around George Strait, but there's also Clint Black. And Randy Travis, you know, like the greats, man. You got to get down to the greats. Who is Rebecca Black? Who is Rebecca Black? No. You don't remember Rebecca? It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. It was like hailed as the worst song ever written for like years until Sarah Brand came and knocked her off it. I don't know if it was the worst song ever. I think she just kind of got a bad rap. I think I have heard it. Thank you for subjugating yourself to the abuse. It's not abuse. Dude, I gotta tell you, TikTok is just fun. It is fun. Especially when it comes to leftist, like nonsense. Hank Williams Jr. Of course, Hank Williams Jr. You can't forget about Hank Williams Jr. Johnny Cash and all the rest. Come on. Come on. The good country. Today's country sucks. I don't want to argue about it. It just does. Today's country is garbage. I can't listen to it. It's just nonsense. The best country that I've heard, literally the best country that I have heard today, isn't even considered country. It's from Lord Huron. Lord Huron, I think, makes the best country. They're my favorite band. They're just good. Patsy Cline, naturally. Pre-2000s country or sooner. Exactly. I grew up in the 90s country, right? And back then, 90s country was just freaking solid, man. I mean, late 80s, 90s country was the last time country was seen on this earth. I saw Johnny Cash in concert in 1977. Awesome show. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Not everyone can say that. Today, we're just talking about... Dude, have y'all been keeping up with the DeSantis thing? What DeSantis did yesterday? Because it was pure Chad energy. Just super based stuff. So, for those of you who don't know what happened, DeSantis got up in front of cameras and basically just publicly chopped the head off of a Florida prosecutor who decided that no matter what the Florida legislature says, he's not going to enforce laws. Why? Because he's woke. He's woke and he will... You know what law he didn't want to enforce? Florida made it illegal to have children subjected to sex change surgeries. Should be very common sense stuff, right? Common sense stuff. You do not have a child undergo a major reconstructive surgery for elective purposes, okay? Because you think that the child is transgender. You don't. It's child abuse. There's no other way around it. It is child abuse. So Ron DeSantis in the Florida legislature said, all right, that's illegal. I can't believe we have to pass this law, but it is illegal. And this dude, this prosecutor in Florida was like, nah, bro, I'm going to do what I want because I'm an elected official in my area and I say what goes in my area. And Ron DeSantis was like, nah, sorry. That's not how this works. Okay, you don't have your own little fiefdom. You're not a king. All right? Ron DeSantis was like, I am Florida! And then he proceeded to, figuratively speaking, behead the guy. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Alex Jones. We're going to talk about how the Lord of the Rings actors are now suddenly reacting to... They seem to be trying to do damage control all the time now against angry fans. And it really just goes to show you how the fans are winning, how Tolkien fans are winning. We're going to talk about that. And just whatever you guys kind of come up with. Saw Led Zeppelin in 1978 too. Damn, Animal. Are the left going to start training their kids to be pets or furries? These people are insane with this trans stuff. It is absolutely insane. Look, my position has always been, if you're an adult, you do what you do, man. I don't care what you do. If you think, you know, if your name is Greg, but you want it to be Susan, and you want your body to reflect your new name by getting plastic stuffed into your chest and lopping off your twig and berries, then you, by all means, go ahead and do what you want to do. I don't care. It's not my business. You do you. However, if you start trying to involve children in this process and convince them that they aren't what they were born as and that they need to undergo hormone transition, medication stuff, and have their twig and berries lopped off, then guess what, dude? You and I have a problem. Because there is no possible way in hell that that kid honestly thinks that he's trans. You think he's trans, and you're trying to push that on the kid for some sick, demented reason. You're not waiting for him to grow up and make up his own mind. You want to push it now, and I do not understand why. It makes no sense unless you are trying to get in with some group or it's some sort of look at me syndrome. Look at how progressive my family is because even my child knows that he's transgender. No, he doesn't, dude. No child knows what he is. You can't sit there and honestly tell me that a 4-year-old knows the intricacies, the complications of gender. Get out of here, man. They're just now learning to count to 3. These people are sick. They're demented. It's child abuse. It's child abuse. Period. There's no argument around it. It's child abuse. So Ron DeSantis is doing what's necessary to make sure that these idiots, these child abusers, do not get to take their kid to some dumbass doctor and go, hey, yeah, we're going to have to get a little rework here of the junk. And start injecting him with hormones. Yeah, he's 5 years old, but don't worry about it. He knows who he is. Give me a damn break. He's making sure that, Ron DeSantis is making sure that parents can't do that. And a prosecutor, who just so happened to be backed by Soros, had a huge problem with that. And DeSantis had a huge problem with that. So DeSantis did what DeSantis is well within his legal right to do, and he just straight up suspended the dude and eventually is going to fire him. Not only that, he sent law enforcement to the guy's office. I don't think that he's going to have trouble physically having to escort the guy out. What I think that he's trying to make sure of, and he kind of hinted that, he wants to make sure that the guy doesn't have time or cannot get rid of any information, burn documents, delete files. Hillary Clinton it, effectively. So that's what we're going to talk about first. What's up, Susie? I never knew the golden calf could come in so many colors. Funny, my name was going to be Greg if I were a boy. Are you serious? Susie, can we start calling you Greg? Would you identify as Greg? I have met trans people, gay, bi, lesbian. I don't care if you're an adult, just saying. Yeah, I don't care either. Look, I'm going to say this, because this is something that I think that we as a society can agree on. Most of us, the vast majority of us, do not care what you identify as. We don't. What we care about is how good of a person you are. If you're like, not willing to abuse children or treat other people like crap because they don't agree with you politically, if they hold beliefs that just happen to differ from your own, we care about that. I know Christians, and I know this because my family is one of them. We know Christians, families, groups, and stuff like that who have gay friends, gay and lesbian friends. Who cares? Who cares? Okay? I've met transgender people in real life on multiple occasions, and every single one of them was they were nice. They were very nice. I had no problem with them. We just hung out. Okay? I think that there's a real world underneath all the political madness happening in the media, but at the same time, really just boils down to, are you a good person? That's really all it boils down to. Your identity does not confirm whether or not you are a good person. That's just the basic fact. Your identity does not constitute whether or not you are a moral member of this society. Okay? Being in the LGBT community does not make you inherently good, just like being a Christian does not make you inherently good. All right? It boils down to character and the choices that you make on a day-to-day basis. That's really what it boils down to. Your boy, for some reason, I have a lot of lesbian friends. I don't know what it is. I easily make friends with lesbians. For some odd reason, we all get along very well. And when I lived in Austin, my best friend was a lesbian. It just goes to show you that, it doesn't, no one cares. Nobody cares. But then you start involving children, and then we have a problem. Then you start making them, you force them to bake the damn cake, then we have a problem. Okay? You start trying to mandate your way onto everybody else, and then we have a problem. That's not how a free country operates. We have a system of laws based on Judeo-Christian values. That is absolutely true, but these are basic laws. Don't rape, don't kill, don't steal. Don't endanger other people within reason. Call me Johnny Bravo. How many of us remember our own childhood? My memories get good around 11 years old. Before that, a little fuzzy. LOL. So now, does a 2-year-old know what they are? You know what my first memory is? My first memory when I was 4 years old and I was in daycare. This is the earliest thing that I can remember. I was in daycare, and I was talking to another kid in daycare, and he was describing to me a dream that he had about a lion. A lion was chasing after him in his dream. And 4-year-old me was so stupid, because that's what 4-year-olds are stupid. I was concerned that the lion was somehow going to escape out of his head and try to get us. I can remember I was eating cereal, and there was a weevil. There were weevils in the bowl that I didn't even notice, and I ate one of the bugs, and I was concerned that I was going to turn into a bug because I ate the bug. 4 years old. Yeah, that's the kind of thinking that they have. That's the kind of thinking 4-year-olds have. They think stupid stuff, but then, yeah, no. They've got it figured out with gender. Completely figured out. It's fine. Thank you, Amtrue. Hit that like button. Yes, Noobtindo, hit that like button. If you have not already hit that like button, do so now. It helps us out quite a bit. Smash that like button. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And also, if you have not done this yet, hit that bell notification icon so that you know when we go live. Also, everything I'm about to talk about is at redstate.com. Please go there right now, and you can follow along with me. It really helps us out if you join up with the VIP program. You can use the promo code Morse, M-O-R-S-E, on sign up. Gives us a little edge against the people who would rather us not get ad revenue for our articles. They don't want us to get paid for our work. We would like to get paid for our work. Capitalism. Ron DeSantis suspends state attorney who refused to uphold law forbidding child sex surgeries. This was on Thursday. As we reported last night, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was set to make a major announcement Thursday morning. DeSantis has now followed through and suspended leftist state attorney Andrew Warren, effective immediately, after Warren had refused to enforce laws passed by the Florida legislature, chief among them child sex surgeries and abortion restrictions. We are suspending Soros-Backed 13th Circuit State Attorney Andrew Warren for neglecting his duties as he pledges not to uphold the law of the state, DeSantis said in a statement according to Fox News. So, this guy, like I said earlier, he decided that he was king in his little area in Florida. He didn't have to do what the Florida legislature said. He didn't have to do what DeSantis said. He can just do whatever he wants. You know, he wanted to make a stand. He wanted to be seen making his stand. And I guess he did it because hitherto, I'm sure that many Republicans would have seen something like that and tried to negotiate with him or tried to, you know, make him see reason, try to find a compromise, a middle ground. DeSantis said no. He took out his big axe, he bent the guy over onto the head chopping block, and swung.
You can't just say you're not going to do certain offenses. And then most recently, Bob's decision was rendered by the U.S. Supreme Court. He signed a letter saying he would not enforce any laws relating to protecting the right to life in the state of Florida. And mind you, we have had prohibition on third trimester abortions for a long time. We've had prohibitions on partial birth abortions for a long time. And then most recently, the legislature enacted and I signed protections for unborn babies at 3.5 months. And when they are aborted, it's typically done through a dismemberment procedure, which is really inhumane.
Disgusting.
Nevertheless, that is what the legislature has enacted, and it's not for him to put himself above that and say that he is not going to enforce the laws.
Amen. It's not within his power to do that. But as you're going to see, he thinks it is.
We don't elect people in one part of the state to have veto power over what the entire state decides on these important issues. The Constitution of Florida has vested the veto power in the governor, not in individual state attorneys. And so when you flagrantly violate your oath of office, when you make yourself above the law, you have violated your duty, you have neglected your duty, and you are displaying a lack of competence to be able to perform those duties. And so today we are suspending State Attorney Andrew Warren, effective immediately.
Yes. Yes. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. If these Soros-backed flunkies don't want to do their job and want to push some kind of agenda, then guess what? You're out. You're out. And it's that simple. Republicans should not compromise. Ron DeSantis just set the tone. You don't compromise. You don't try to negotiate. You don't try to find middle ground. No, if they do this, you get rid of them. You suspend them. You go into their office. You take all the stuff, all their documentation. Who are they answering to? What are their plans? Do they have any kind of correspondence that we need to know about? Any kind of emails? Is there anything on their computer that's not supposed to be there? We want it. If you're that against doing your job because you are a political radical hell-bent on defying the legislature and the governor, then guess what, dude? You're gone. You're gone.
We are not going to allow this pathogen that's been around the country of ignoring the law. We are not going to let that get a foothold here in the state of Florida. We are going to make sure that our laws are enforced and that no individual prosecutor puts himself above the law. And I can tell you the states and the localities that have allowed this to happen, they are ruining the day. You want to know why some people are moving to Florida? Because their communities are no longer safe thanks to prosecutors that think they know better than the people's representatives, and they get to pick and choose which laws that they are enforcing. So this was something that had a lot of input around the state. This is something that I think is a very, very important issue across our country, that this movement would be allowed to take hold, where you basically elevate your own personal conception of, quote, social justice over what the law requires of you. And I would note, those who say this represents social justice, look at San Francisco. They had to recall this prosecutor who was put in, funded by people like George Soros, saying he's not going to prosecute. They did the recall election. He was recalled, even in a very liberal jurisdiction. But the places that voted to keep him were the affluent communities who are not bearing the brunt of the policies.
So just to interject here real fast, I want to expand on something that Ron DeSantis just said. So he's talking about how in San Francisco you had a lot of people recall this guy, right? He's not the only one. And remember, San Francisco is pretty much the bluest of the blue, okay? Its politics are so left, it could be represented by a choking Smurf. That's how blue it is. But even they were like, nah, this is too much. We can't do this. This guy is so soft on crime. He's making all these horrible decisions. We got to get rid of him. The people who wanted to keep him they're not even affected by the guy. They hardly see any effect by him, but they wanted to keep him anyway because these affluent leftists love to pretend that they're smarter and wiser and more morally competent than everybody else around them. Right? And on top of that, this is along the same line. This is happening at the same time. The school boards, the parents are going after these leftists in the school boards. In San Francisco, they ousted 3, and they were working on a 4th last I checked. Now, many of these people are not going to get booted out because the mayor of San Francisco tends to have final say over a lot of this stuff. So even though they, might get booted out, he gets to appoint the people who come in afterward. And he's just like these affluent jerks who just decide that everyone else should live by their moral compass, not actually, wisdom by the people who have to be in the mess. All right. It goes to show you that these people aren't really concerned. These affluent leftists, these elitists and stuff aren't really concerned about you. They're concerned about what they can say that they believe and have done and support. It's easy for them to go, well, I think that, we should contribute millions and billions of dollars to the homeless and they should be able to sleep wherever they want. And we should allow more of them to come across the border and hang out in our lands so that they can have a better life and blah, 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 blah. They don't have to see those people. They don't have to deal with them. We do. They're effectively making those decisions for us using their money, influence, and power. And I'm not just talking about residents. I'm talking about the elites in political office. They don't have to deal with it. We do. You want to know what happens whenever they do have to deal with it? You're seeing it right now in D.C. Okay? Texas Governor Greg Abbott, his genius move to start shipping migrants to D.C. is really kind of bringing it home to their front door and being like, no, here's what we're dealing with. Now you deal with it too. These are the policies that you said you love. You think it's so good that they're coming and they're flooding across the border. Here they are now. They're right in front of your door. Now you have to deal with it. It's not just us. What do they want to do? They want to ship them back to the border towns where they belong, right? It goes to show you they don't really care. But put them in front, put the problem right in front of them, put it on their doorstep so that they have to deal with it, and suddenly they're not willing to deal with it. They want to push it off on everyone else.
The places that voted to recall him were the working class communities, because they bear the burden of ignorance and refusal to enforce the law. And so what this is all about is really, when you uphold the rule of law, you are protecting the most vulnerable in our society. That's why we have a rule of law. And so I think today's action is obviously warranted. I know that there'll potentially be some Florida Senate could potentially see this depending on how things are going out. But I just think that to take a position that you have veto power over the laws of this state is untenable. And I think it warrants the suspension and eventual removal of office. And so
the people are in charge in Florida right now. The people. And I want to make that very clear. The people elected Ron DeSantis, right? They elected the legislature, and the people decided something would happen. This Soros-backed Andrew Warren guy decided, screw the people and what the state of Florida wants. I'm going to do what I want. That's very characteristic of these hard leftists. Screw the people and these laws and whatnot. It's what I want that counts. What my agenda calls for. And again, people like him, they typically don't suffer this stuff. Not even a little bit. Let's learn a little bit more about this guy. Who is Andrew Warren, the Hillsborough prosecutor ousted by Governor Ron DeSantis? From the Palm Beach Post. Before he was state attorney, Warren worked for 8 years for the Department of Justice, mainly prosecuting white-collar crime. He was part of a team of lawyers who prosecuted R. Allen Stanford, a financier who was sentenced to 110 years in federal prison, who used his investment company to defraud investors in a $7 billion Ponzi scheme. The federal prosecutor in Gainesville native announced in January 2016 his intent to run for state attorney as a Democrat, setting up a challenge to the office's longtime Republican incumbent, Mark Ober. Warren was very much the underdog. Ober had held the post since 2000 and was well respected in Hillsborough legal circles. Warren ran as a reformer, vowing to focus on rehabilitation over punishment and become a voice for criminal justice reform nationwide. So already we're kind of, whenever you hear that from a leftist, automatically know that what they're saying is they want to be soft on crime. I'm all about reforming criminals. I really am. I think that there are some aspects of that are good. Drug reform, I think, is great. Texas did that for a while, and you saw prisons actually start to lower in terms of you started to see lower prison sentences for people not because we were being soft on them, but because the recidivism rate was actually decreasing. They would go out and they would be reformed. They would have job opportunities. They would go and work and make a life for themselves. They would break free. So I think that there is some soft on crime things that are good. I wouldn't even call it soft on crime in this case. But what they're saying, what this guy, and you'll notice that this kind of stuff happens in California. You see like TikToks of it, YouTube videos of it, Twitter videos of it every day. They're saying stuff like, we want them to be able to assault or steal. Tons and tons. I mean, like you'll see videos of these people stealing stuff from a Target or a CVS or something, and they will do absolutely nothing about it. A security guard will be sitting there watching them do it. They'll fill up this like Santa Claus looking bag and then walk out with it, and nothing will happen to them. They want that's the kind of life, the kind of society that they want. That's soft on crime. This is the kind of guy that they're talking about, and apparently that is exactly what he did. In an upset that stunned Tampa legal observers, Warren squeezed out a victory in the November 2016 general election, defeating Ober by just 4,700 votes. He was reelected in 2020. Political observers told the Tampa Bay Times that a number of factors contributed to success. Ober didn't do enough to counter an aggressive, often negative campaign lobbed by his opponent. You know what? I'm gonna say something a little controversial. If you're a Republican and you have a negative ad campaign being launched against you by a Democrat, and you do not return fire or do what's necessary to defend yourself because you're turning the other cheek and you think that, being a nice guy is going to win you the election, then you deserved to lose. You did. This compassionate conservatism, this nice guy turn the other cheek Republicanism has to go because it's not working. It is a one-way ticket to a loss. Go in. And Warren likely benefited from the presidential election turnout, which in Hillsborough favored Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton. Warren also matched Ober's fundraising, despite being a political newcomer. After taking office, Warren followed through with some of his promises for reform. He started a conviction review unit to investigate claims of innocence. Within a few years, the unit helped exonerate Robert Dubois, who had spent 37 years in prison for a rape and murder he didn't commit. It also threw out a number of convictions that relied on testimony from 3 Tampa police officers who were later fired for misconduct. Okay. Warren also partnered with academic researchers to create a data dashboard on his own office's website that showed racial disparities and trends in cases. He also expanded his office's use of arrest diversion programs and expressed support for cash bail reform, saying that people shouldn't languish in jail just because they can't afford bail. But here's the issue. This is the issue right here. First off, if you just look at racial disparities alone, what are you trying to do? If you're looking at racial disparities in the system of in the prison system or the arrest system, police reports and stuff like that, and you're instructing them, hey, we're arresting too many black people, cut it out, then you're allowing people to get away with it just based on their skin color. It's I'm sorry, that's just not right. That's not right. And like, well, they have to stay in jail because they can't afford bail. Look, I understand that bail can sometimes be crazy, but sometimes bail is crazy for a reason. And if you commit the crime, then serve the time. I'm not saying that our legal system is perfect. It's not. Okay, but we need to be wise about how we implement punishments. And this is not wise. Going, oh, well, you know, because he is not white, obviously we need to go lighter on him. That's not how this works. Across the board. He was one of several prosecutors, including his Republican counterpart across Tampa Bay, who dropped low-level charges against demonstrators protesting the 2020 Minneapolis police murder of George Floyd. Mistake. One of the reasons, like, I'm pretty sure it keeps getting worse and worse is because of this very thing. We have Democrats and some Republicans out there who are just like, yeah, you know what? Let's go easy on these protesters. Protesting is good in the United States. We want to encourage that. Well, now we've got people, you know, burning buildings to the ground, assaulting people for no reason because they know they're not going to get just stealing. They're not going to get in trouble for it. But the decisions by Warren that seemed to catch DeSantis' eye happened more recently following the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in June to undo Roe v. Wade. Warren joined dozens of state prosecutors nationwide in saying they would not pursue criminal charges against those who seek, provide, or support abortions. Not all of us agree on a personal or moral level on this issue, on the issue of abortion, but we stand together in our firm belief that prosecutors have a responsibility to refrain from using limited criminal legal system resources to, now it's limited, to criminalize personal medical decisions. Bro, it's not about personal medical decisions. That's not what they're punishing. You're using language, Warren, you're using language that doesn't fit the event. Leftists love to play with words. They love to play with, it's not just a personal medical decision, is it? Because there are 2 people involved, one of which is going to die. On July 25th, the state prosecutors updated their letter to note that criminalizing and prosecuting individuals who seek to provide abortion care makes a mockery of justice. Our legislatures may decide to criminalize personal health care decisions, but we remain obligated to prosecute only those cases that serve the interests of justice and the people, the letter notes. The people who voted against, they have a problem with the way that abortion is done in Florida, so they voted people in who would uphold laws that make it harder to get an abortion. But this guy, once again, he's trying to make it seem like, oh, it's everyone who agrees with me. In June 2021, he signed a letter from the same network vowing not to enforce laws that criminalize healthcare for transgender people. Those include bans on gender-affirming care for children and on transgender people using restrooms that align with their gender identity. Bills that criminalize safe and crucial medical treatments or the mere public existence of trans people do not promote public safety, community trust, or fiscal responsibility. The letter says they serve no legitimate purpose. Problem. Stopping doctors from chopping up kids so that they represent what their parents convinced them they actually are in terms of gender is an issue. That's a legitimate purpose. Stopping that is a legitimate purpose. It's child abuse. The fact that we even have to have laws around this right now blows my freaking mind. But you have idiots like this who have an agenda first. He's not moral. He's not standing on moral high ground. He has an agenda. That's all it really boils down to. State attorney that Ron DeSantis suspended cries in a glorious river. He cries excuse me. On Thursday morning, Gov. Ron DeSantis once again showed he's a different breed of Republican by suspending a state attorney who refused to enforce Florida's laws. DeSantis, fresh off telling The View to pound sand, which was an awesome story in and of itself. I don't know if you guys know that about that. You know, here, we'll go into that a little bit later. Suspended state attorney Andrew Warren for refusing to enforce the duly passed laws, including those criminalizing the castration of children under the guise of gender-affirming care. Again, playing with words. We are suspending Soros-Backed 13th Circuit State Attorney Andrew Warren for neglecting his duties as he pledges not to uphold the laws of the state. I read that to you guys in the last article. Warren has now responded, putting out a statement accusing the Florida governor of illegal overreach while calling DeSantis an aspiring presidential candidate. I hope so. This is what he said in his statement. Today's political stunt, that's what he sounds like in my head, is an illegal overreach that constitutes a dangerous pattern by Ron DeSantis of using his office to further his own political ambition. It spits in the face of the voters of Hillsborough County, who have twice elected me to serve them, not Ron DeSantis. In our community, crime is low. Our constitutional rights, including the right to privacy, are being upheld, and the people have the right to elect their own leaders, not have them dictated by an aspiring presidential candidate who has shown time and again he feels accountable to no one, except the entire people of Florida. Just because the governor violates your rights, it doesn't mean they don't exist. So he's making the claim that what Ron DeSantis did was illegal. State attorney. I want everyone to keep that. He's a state attorney, and he's claiming that what Ron DeSantis did was illegal. Somebody on Twitter had to go in and kind of cut this little section of the law out and show it to the guy who was supposed to uphold the law in Florida. With the message, Lamau cried harder. Suspensions filing office during suspensions. A. By executive order stating the grounds and filled with the custodian of state records, the governor may suspend from office any state officer not subjected to impeachment, any officer of the militia not in the active service of the United States, or any county officer for malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform official duties, or commission of a felony, and may fill the office by appointed for the period of suspension. The suspended officer may at any time before removal be reinstated by the governor. Seems pretty legal to me. B. The Senate may do it. In proceedings prescribed by law, remove from office or reinstate the suspended official, and or by such purpose of the Senate may be convened in special session by its president or by a majority of its membership. C. By order of the governor, any elected municipal officer indicted for crime may be suspended from office until acquitted and the office filled by appointment for the period of suspension, not to extend beyond the term unless these powers are vested elsewhere by law or the municipal charter. Gee willikers, it seems that DeSantis is well within his right. Because Andrew Warren here decided he just wasn't going to uphold Florida law. That he was king of Hillsborough. And as king, he could enact whatever laws he chose. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. You are not king. You are not royalty. That's just the way it goes. But for some reason, these leftists continuously want to pretend like they have full reign over everyone and everything around them. That they are untouchable. that they have their own little kingdom, their little fiefdoms, and they don't have to obey laws. Leftists not having to obey laws, isn't that a weird consistency among the left? They don't have to obey the law. They make their own law. They're above the law. This was the only move Ron DeSantis could have made. Honestly, if he didn't make that move, Ron DeSantis, it probably would have looked really bad on him. It would have eroded trust in him. If this guy continued to operate under his own steam, under his own will, and Ron DeSantis just stood by and did nothing, it would not have been, it would have been an anti-Ron DeSantis move. Gets better. It looks like the power is something he's doing to go without Ron. But it looks like power is something he's going to go without, as Ron DeSantis has now called on law enforcement to forcibly remove Warren from his position, according to the Daily Wire. In the executive order suspending Warren from office, DeSantis ordered, as of the signing of this executive order, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, assisted by other law enforcement agencies as necessary, is requested to assist in the immediate transition of Andrew Warren from the office of the state attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit of Florida, with access only to retrieve his personal belongings, and ensure no files, papers, documents, notes, records, computers, or removable storage media are removed from any of the office of the state attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit of Florida by Andrew Warren or any of his staff. Like I said, it's unlikely that law enforcement was necessary to remove Warren himself. I'm sure he was going to go peaceably. But as the order said, the real reason is to secure any records that may be at the office. Warren is, after all, a man clearly driven by a radical agenda, and any and all files should be combed over carefully. What correspondence he or his office has had should be examined, especially if his office has had influences from offices like Soros's. Even if no illegality was found within, it would still give us a good idea as to what the radical leftist playbook looks like. DeSantis said he already has a good idea, as reported by the Daily Wire. Here's what Soros is doing. It's actually smart on his part, but they can't get these things enacted in a legislature where you're just going to let criminals run amok, DeSantis said. So what they do, he will get involved in these Democrat primaries in a Democrat area. He'll flush $1 million to get the radical to win the primary. Then they usually win the general because of the party affiliation difference in that jurisdiction. So then you get them in there, and what they do is they want to change the criminal justice system through non-enforcement. So it's a total end run around our constitutional system. The results obviously have been destructive around the country. That is true. I mean, you look at California and New York. But it also really undermines the idea that ours is supposed to be a government of laws, not a government of individual men. I'm willing to bet that within all of the personal correspondence, emails, files, and stuff like that are some marching orders from somebody outside the state of Florida. This guy is a Soros-backed candidate with a radical agenda. Somebody has been communicating with him. Somebody has been giving him, talking points. Somebody has been directing him on next moves. Somebody. I'm willing to bet. And that's one of the big reasons I'm pretty sure Ron DeSantis wants to make sure that everything in there stays there so that they can comb over it carefully. And I think that this needs to happen all over the nation. Okay? Warren is not the only dude refusing to enforce. It happens in Texas all the time. It happens in states, actually, where they say, they'll make some declaration and say, this is how our state operates. And there's leftists who constantly go, you know what? No, we're not going to do this. You remember back when President Trump effectively started to really crack down on illegal immigration, and you had a bunch of officials all over the country start talking about how, we're a sanctuary city. Ha ha ha. How many of those red states had those blue state leaders declare that? you know? Governors need to, state legislatures need to get to a point where they go, oh, you're not going to enforce the law? Okay. Bye. You're not doing your job. Peace. Be gone. Leave your stuff. We're going to look at it. It's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. I do want DeSantis in the White House, very much so. I will say Warren is right about one thing. This is a man that's running. I was watching him at SAS. This man is running. He's running for office. This move right here is one of the most, hey, vote for me because I'm about to take over this whole shebang moves. 100%. Kari Lake won every county in Arizona. Solid. I have been poor most of my life. I always managed to bail the times I found myself in jail. How many times have you been in jail? Just got my ticket to see the Hodge twins. Oh, you know what? That sounds like a fun time. I'm just excited that I don't have to fly or drive 4+ hours to a show. Animal probably does. Don't you have a plane or something, Animal? Well, they don't care about the children, that is for sure. Absolutely they don't. That should be fun while... Yeah. That should be fun while pickled squirrel. Clever. What's it that you always say, John? Progressives, regressives always project. Oh, yeah, always project. You can guarantee... It's almost like clockwork. It's almost like clockwork. If they really come at you for something... and they're getting mad at you and like trying to announce how horrible you are about a certain thing, guaranteed they're guilty of it. You just got to find it. They've told you what they're guilty of. Just go look for it. DeSantis is doing his job as governor and doing it well. Oh, yeah. They on the left always whine. Jesse Smollett and that prosecutor was not so fun to watch. Charges forthcoming, maybe? Possibly. If they find anything, I kind of wonder if, I mean, given I'm no legal expert, maybe Susie can shine a light on this. I don't know if he will suffer for his refusal to uphold Florida law. I don't know. I'm no legal expert, so I can't answer to that. But I kind of have to think that if somebody did do something and he failed to prosecute, that was against Florida law and he failed to prosecute, there has to be some sort of punishment coming down the line. Maybe this is the punishment. I don't know. Maybe Ron DeSantis was just waiting. He was waiting for him to break the law like he knew he was going to, or not enforce the law like he was going to, and thus he was able to toss him out. You know, Ron DeSantis had him in the crosshairs for a long time. Even still, it would be someone else indirectly tied to Soros and not direct orders from Soros. No, of course not. Soros isn't going to talk directly to the guy. Come on. He's just a lackey. 3 or 4 times in jail, only overnight. That means you've lived. I don't have a plane, but I know a guy who does. I wish I knew a guy who had a plane. Things are looking better. Amen to that. What's up, Cleo? How you doing? Always project. It's almost at this point in time leftist 101. Speaking of more Ron DeSantis delivers perfect response to request from The View for an interview. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they tried to ask Ron DeSantis to come on. They would be honored to have him on The View, which is a... I don't know if you've been keeping track of what they do at The View lately, but it is less than smart. Like, it's just, they say some of the dumbest garbage I've ever seen. Their audience is primarily made up of clapping seals. They just applaud at whatever they say. It doesn't matter. They could say, hey, you know, let's stab puppies. And they'd be like, oh yeah, stabbing puppies, that's great. They decided they wanted to have Ron DeSantis on. Ron DeSantis said no, but the way they said no was just great. The View emailed our office on Friday. This is from Brian Griffin, who He's the deputy press secretary for Ron DeSantis. Emailed our office on Friday asking for us to arrange an appearance from Governor Ron DeSantis on the show. We should be honored, they wrote. Or we would be honored, they wrote. Here was their response. Dear blank, I'm assuming a producer, thanks for the invite. I understand that you are sending this request on behalf of your team, but are the hosts of The View really interested in hearing from Governor Ron DeSantis about all the important work he is doing on behalf of Floridians to protect their health and livelihoods, to stand up for the parents and children, and to defend freedom? Which of the below statements from the hosts of The View do you recommend our team consider when deciding if the interview will be a genuine pursuit of the truth or worth the time? Joy Behar, August 2021. You're just short of calling Reverend Ron DeSantis a negligent, homicidal sociopath because that's what he is. Wow. Like, even, look, I understand that The View is like a politically leftist, show of personal commentary. I get that. But calling him a homicidal sociopath? Really? He's not a homicidal sociopath. That's very clear that he's not a homicide. Why would you go, like, you have to be that addled in the brain to actually think and not just think that, but say it out loud in front of millions of people. What is he doing? He's risking the lives of children, children's parents, their grandparents, anyone they may come into contact with. This is the same guy who just got rid of a state prosecutor because he wouldn't stop people bringing children into a hospital or a surgery room so that they could have their kit and caboodle chopped off so that the parent can then pretend that they're so woke and progressive. So he can appeal to his white supremacist base. Good God. White supremacist base. If you're a fan of Ron DeSantis, she is saying that you are a white supremacist. You're a racist, according to Joy Behar. So he can continue his career and get reelected. Sonny Hostin, June 2022. Death Santis. I think he's a fascist and a bigot. Proof. Give us proof that he's a fascist. Can you show us that he's a fascist? Do you have the evidence on you? You don't. They never provide any. It's just name calling. Again, the left has only name calling left. That's all they've got. Anna Navarro, April 2022, on Governor DeSantis' policies. It's anti-black. It's not. It's anti-gay. It's not. It's anti-LGBTQ plus community. And for some reason, the Republican base responds to it. Again, it's not just an attack on DeSantis. It's an attack on you. And it's anti-American. Oh, it's what happens in Venezuela. It's what happens in Nicaragua. They just go so far. How far can somebody... It's like... I took improv lessons for a while. One of the most fun things I've ever done. If you ever get the chance to do it, go do it. It's fun. Improv is fun. You don't have to be good at it. Just go have fun. But one of the things they teach you is never go to the most extreme thing first. Because after that, you've pretty much got nowhere else to go, and the audience weirdly takes you less seriously. It limits you in terms of your comedy. It limits you in terms of your commentary. These women clearly did not learn that lesson. And they've been in show business or, political commentary for a long time. They just go straight to the most extreme thing. And because they went to the most extreme thing as soon as humanly possible, people take them less seriously. Sonny Hostin, February 2022, on Governor Ron DeSantis' policies. It started with CRT, which deserved to die. Let's remember that. And those are anti-history laws, anti-black history laws, really, she said. If you start coming after black people, what comes next? Of course, the LGBTQ plus community, and then women, and then other marginalized groups. Critical race theory is I don't think I have to remind you guys, but for those of you who are watching this VOD, critical race theory is a concept that was created by radical left activists to paint the United States as a strictly racist nation that has done nothing but racist stuff. It also paints anybody who is a minority as a victim and anybody who is white as an oppressor. That's just what it does. You are supposed to feel it is the point of it is to teach white people, especially white children, to feel guilty or victimized depending on their skin color. It tells an inaccurate version of American history that tries to make the nation seem like a horrible place to minorities from the very beginning. Also incredibly false. Incredibly false. The founding fathers are often talked about as these massive racist slave owners, but if you actually look at their actions and what they said, what they did, they were the ones who abhorred racism and set the stage for racism and slavery to be, I should say not racism, because racism clearly alive and well in Democrat Party. It set the stage for slavery to be destroyed later on down the line. They have done more to help the black community. The founding fathers did more to help the black community than many of these race baiters, Al Sharpton, Joy Behar, Sonny Hostin, and Navarro, have done ever in their lives. Done more to help the black community. And start coming after what comes next, of course, the LGBTQ plus community. No, here's the thing. No one's coming after the community. What we're coming after are these idiots who decide that children and everyone else should be beholden to their rules. That they just get to make up the rules. That's what we're going after. He continues, we'll pass on this offer. Also, please note, we don't coordinate appearances or events of a political nature from the official office. Our role is to serve the people of Florida. Thank you, Brian Griffin, Deputy Press Secretary, Executive Office of the Governor. Get out of here. I'm glad that they did that. I'm seriously glad that they did that. I think it's absolutely necessary to tell these people no. Because I think Republicans... It's clear that Republicans are not going to get a fair shake on these shows. They never do. They never get a fair shake. They go on there and they're lambasted. They're made examples of, effectively. They're asked unfair questions. They're cornered. Screw it. Why go on a show like that? You know, there's a reason that many right-wingers they refuse to go on CNN anymore unless you're like a Ted Cruz who can hold his own. You know? The View is not worthy of the attention of many elected leaders in office, specifically Republicans. They're not going to go on there and have a good time, and there's not going to be more understanding to be had. Do you think that the people who are more interested in going to extremes and calling you a racist and a bigot, Death Santis, accusing you of trying to kill everybody, actually want to have more understanding with you? No. No. These people are idiots. Don't go on their shows. Watch either version of the film, The Stepford Wives, and you'll see the audience of The View. Talk about shoving the dog's nose in its own poo. Dude, it was masterful. Masterful. Stopped watching The View a long time ago. Here's the funny thing. I still report on The View. And I think it's good to. Because there are just some things. Well, I am a huge fan of knowing your enemy. I am a huge fan of it. Right? And if they're out there saying this stuff, I want people to see it. I want to drag it out into the public. You know? Beyond their clapping seals, their trained seal audience. Drag it out in front of everybody. Because it's easy to say and be in your own bubble and say that you're doing smart things and you're having smart commentary. You know? Whenever the immediate people around you are just clapping at everything you say and do. It's easy to feel superior then. But then you drag it out in front of everybody else outside of that studio. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm not that smart. Griffin is making them eat their words. Good. Yeah. FYI, Joy Behar is over a month older than Biden. Does this not say a lot? Is she really? My God. With these responses from The View, why would DeSantis go there? Exactly. There's no need to. The View needs DeSantis. He does not need The View. That's a good way to put it, actually. That's a really good way to put it. They're reaching out to him because they need him. They want those ratings. Because it will, like, didn't they have, like, a huge boom in ratings whenever they invited, what was that last Republican that went on? He went on there and, like, the ratings went through the roof. I think that's what they're trying to do. Yet CRT doesn't point out the party responsible for the vast majority of the things that were done to them. Yeah, Democrats are good guys in every story. Yet Democrats are actually the ones who fought for slavery. Democrats are the ones who fought against civil rights. Like, it's the same thing over and over and over again. My shocked face. Here's something controversial that's happening right now. We're going to go over it. Actually, you know what? Here's what I want to do. I want to show you guys how you're winning this fight in the culture war. The Lord of the Rings of Power actress says casting isn't tokenization. Amazon's diversity and inclusion quota says otherwise. So, I'm going to assume we're all Tolkien fans in some capacity in here. You know, there are some sincerely great authors out there. Tolkien is one of the best authors to ever exist in Western history, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? If you've ever sat down and read The Lord of the Rings, any of them, you know, I suggest you read all of them. You'll get this, seriously, you get sucked in to this world. And he has a way of making you feel like you're there while you're reading it. I loved him so much, his writing so much, that I read the Silmarillion 3 times. The Silmarillion is I don't know, I love lore books. And so the Silmarillion is kind of this big lore book that attaches itself to the Lord of the Rings, that entire universe. You know, Tolkien wrote this entire universe and then just decided to tell a story within it. It was just that's how smart. He created his own languages because he was a linguist. You know, and he just, it's this universe that deserves to be upheld as one of the greatest stories of all time. The greatest storytellers of all time is Tolkien. Naturally, Amazon wants to take, because like that's what you do when you're a leftist. You want to take previously established IPs. You want to take franchises that people love. You want to take stories that are legendary. And you want to use them to kind of craft your own message and then push that out. Amazon bought the rights to some of Lord of the Rings. Funny enough, not the Silmarillion. And naturally, you know, Jeff Bezos, he wanted to have a Game of Thrones of his own. And he wanted to slap Tolkien's universe over it. Look, Game of Thrones and Middle Earth do not mix. They don't. They're two completely different feels. You can't have one and the other and have it work. You just can't. It's not going to stop him from trying. But also, moreover, you have a company that is trying to introduce wokeness into Lord of the Rings because, again, that's what you do. You want to inject your political nonsense. You take a previously established thing that people love and you use it as a delivery system for your message. Fans have not been reacting well, and they shouldn't be reacting well. It is a classic. It is a story that is one of the best ever told. And Amazon is abusing it. And so fans are lashing out. And Amazon has been climbing uphill against them ever since. Despite all the money, the billion plus dollars spent on this thing, they cannot seem to overcome the disdain of the fans. It hasn't even released yet, and already they're having to play defense on it. The release is not looking good. It's not. You know, you sink $1 billion into something, you want it to go well, but it's just not going well. It wasn't going well from the beginning. They have tried to lie, to cover up, to censor people who have spoken out against them. And yet the fans keep coming. And they won't be stopped. They won't be silenced. They keep coming. There's a lesson to be learned here. Even these powerful people who run Hollywood, who run political office and all that stuff, cannot stand against you if you continue. If you continue. Persist. Go. Go in. The Lord of the Rings of Power actress Nazanin Bonyadi, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, who plays the original characters Bronwyn in the series, recently declared that the casting of the series isn't tokenization. Bonyadi, I'm going to say Bonyadi, spoke to Entertainment Weekly about the series, telling the outlet, "This was not stunt casting." She elaborated, "This isn't tokenization or a lot of the things that we're used to in past roles. Every person has been cast because they are the best people for those roles, regardless of ethnicity and race. And I find that super empowering. Empowering. God, I hate that word now. First, this claim does not pass the smell test. As YouTuber Just Some Guy pointed out, great YouTuber, pointed out back in February, Middle Earth is basically northwestern Europe, mostly England. The native people of those areas are all white. So all the races of Middle Earth would be white. And we know that's true because Tolkien described what they looked like. They were all white. He further added the actors can be non-white, and if they can pass as European with or without makeup, they can play those characters. They just need to look the part. Casting non-white actors in a Middle Earth show is like casting white actors in a Black Panther movie. It makes no sense. So the idea that the people casting these roles are the best ones for them falls on its face. As Just Some Guy points out, you wouldn't cast a white man to play Black Panther. And we talked about this in the last stream. There comes a point where you're not doing this for the story. You're not casting these black actors who are supposed to be playing what are described as by Tolkien, and they say they're going by Tolkien's word. You can't cast black actors in roles that play within a race, a people who are described as by Tolkien white. If you do that, you're not doing it for the story. You're doing it for political purposes. That's what you're doing. You're doing it for political purposes. And people do not want politics in their escapism. They do not want politics in their TV shows. They do not want politics in their movies. They tuned into these things because they were trying to get away from it all. We wanted to be entertained, not preached at. Not only does it fall on its face on that point, but Amazon Studios published their inclusion policy and playbook back in June 2021, where they reveal that they have racial quotas for their productions. Racial quotas are nothing but politics. It is pure politics. Period. There's no way around it. You can't have racial quotas and expect to have a story first focus. You can't. You get one or the other. Amazon Studios head Jennifer Salk touted the policy and playbook in a press release saying, "With the establishment of our inclusion policy and inclusion playbook, Amazon Studios has committed itself to being a thought and action leader in the transformation of our industry." Transformation into what? So far, it seems like the only thing you're transforming this industry or trying to transform this industry into is a hub for politics. A hub for leftist politics, to be particular. You're stepping away from storytelling. You're stepping away from characters that are there for natural reasons in order to implement characters that are there because modern politics says they should be. You want your little cast, cast pictures and these teasers to have things that would please leftist activists. She added, "We know how much work there is to be done to improve representation both on camera and behind the scenes, and it starts at home with us. with clear directives and a commitment to accountability. These guides provide a path toward a more equitable future, both on and off camera. If you had, and I know this is becoming tired at this point in time, if you have a movie, let's say I made a movie about African gods and African people, and I made one of those gods white. I made one of the tribal leaders of the African people white, European in origin. Do you think that that would fly? It wouldn't. People would lose their damn mind. They would say something that's disrespectful to the culture. It's disrespectful to black people everywhere. It's racist. It would be non-stop. The mainstream media would be covering it from every angle that you could possibly imagine. It's bigoted. It's racist. It's hateful. Disrespectful. From every working speaker, you would constantly hear people complaining. But if the left does it to a primarily European people, it's fine. It's fine. It's diversity. It's inclusion. It's equity. Specifically, the policy includes each film or series with a creative team of 3 or more people in above the line roles, directors, writers, producers, should ideally include a maximum of 30% women and 30% members of an underrepresented racial ethnic group. This aspirational goal will increase by 50% by 2024. So screw you if you're the best person for the job. You have to have a different skin color. Does no one find that racist? And I don't just mean toward white people. I mean toward black people, toward women, sexist toward women. You're not getting in because you're the best for the job. You're getting in because of your skin color. You're getting in because of your sex. Not because of your ability. Screw your ability. They're just using you. They're using you so that they can release a postcard that looks good to the leftist people. They are using black people. They're using Hispanic people. They're using women to make themselves look good to a group of people who won't be satisfied anyway. Does no one find that racist or sexist at all? We can take white people out of the equation for a second. I mean, it's definitely racist towards white people. 100%. You're not getting the job, or you're not getting cast, despite the fact that you're probably born for the role. You're born for the job. You're the best at what you do, but you got white skin. Get out. That's racism. But you're looking at the black community and being like, I'm going to take him for the job. Why? Well, he's black. Is that all these people boil down to? Is that all that they are? They're just their skin color now? They're just what's between their legs at this point in time? Come on. Amazon is one of the most racist and sexist companies on the planet, period. Casting actors whose identity, gender identity, nationality, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability aligns with the characters they will be playing. So you can't be an actor and act a role anymore. You have to be that in real life too. Aiming to include one character from each of the following categories in speaking roles, with a minimum 50% of these to be women: LGBT, alphabet people, person with a disability, and 3 regionally underrepresented race, ethnic, culture groups. A single character can fulfill one or more of these identities. Again, screw story. They have to check a box. Seeking at least 3 bids from vendors or suppliers on productions, one of which must be from a woman-owned business and one from a minority-owned business. Again, we're hiring just based off of skin color or sex. That's racist and sexist. Pay equity across casting, behind the camera staff and crew, and for vendors and suppliers. Okay, so hang on. Does that mean that everyone gets the same? Are they turning this into a socialist production? The extra gets paid just as much as the main actor? What's the point of being a main actor? What's the point of being a director if you're just going to get paid the same as the grip? And also, I want to ask a question. Are these studio heads, are they getting paid the same amount? I bet not. I bet the people at the top are scraping off a really huge chunk of that cash that's going to come in, if enough of it comes in. I sincerely doubt that the pay equity that they're talking about is actually good. The third bullet point makes it very clear that Prime Video does indeed have racial, gender, and even sexuality quotas. So you have to also be gay, by the way, to get a part. You know, screw the guy who actually is born for this role. He's straight. We can't have that. Not only did Amazon Studios detail these policies, but their inclusion documents are guided by the Amazon Studios DEI team, whose focus is, 1, ensure diverse representation of talent in front of and behind the camera, above and below the line. Does that mean that there's somebody going around? Is there somebody going around like some sort of like leftist Gestapo and being like, this cast looks a little too white. Why do the people holding the lights all look to be white and male? Where are the females? You better be homosexual. Dismantle long-standing barriers to success in the industry and inspect our process so we do not. So does there's an inspector. Do not create or perpetuate inequity. Somebody has to go around and enforce and like inspect and enforce this stuff. They're gonna have like little Gestapo, Amazon Gestapo, making sure all the cast and crew are diverse. They will not tolerate whiteness. And tell inclusive narratives to reach inclusive narratives right there. Number 3, and tell inclusive narratives to reach a globally diverse audience. Screw the story. It has to be inclusive. The story has to be inclusive. Everything has to be inclusive. We're not focused on telling a story. We're trying to tell a story that can appeal to one group and another group and all the. That's not how storytelling works, dude. That's not how storytelling. I cannot believe that I have to say this to a massive multi-billion-dollar organization. Does not work that way. If you tell a story, you focus on the story. All right? If you're trying to please everybody, you're chasing too many rabbits, man. You chase one rabbit. You catch that rabbit. That's your focus. Tolkien, here's the thing that drives me crazy. Tolkien already had massive accolades from fans. Massive fan base. It was super huge. It spanned the globe. What are they doing now? They're trying to appeal to everybody. What? It already did. What are you doing? It is not inclusive enough. We must have more inclusivity. When Amazon Studios head Jennifer Salk first talked about The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, this is what she said. As for how many people need to watch Lord of the Rings, a lot, laughs. A giant global audience needs to show up to it as appointment television, and we are pretty confident that will happen. No, that ain't happening now. That ain't happening now. You think that people are going to tune into this direct, the fans, the fan base? And by the way, fan base is a word that they need to take very seriously. If the base of the fandom, the thing that it is going to sit on, doesn't like it, then guess what? You're building your entire structure on a mound of sand. You have to have the fan base on board so they can be like, this is great. I love this. We need more of this. I want to watch. I recommend everybody else watch it too. If the fans don't like it, then what? You're done, dude. They're gonna be, I'm not watching this. No, this is stupid. I hate it. Blah, 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 blah. It's going down the drain. Fan base. Boniati can claim that the casting for the show isn't tokenized. It is the absolute definition of tokenized. This is the absolute definition of tokenization. But the fact that Tolkien's characters are white in his novels directly contradicts that. On top of that, Amazon Studios has made it very clear they have tokenized policies in place for their productions. And The Lord of the Rings of Power is an Amazon Studios production. The fan base has said no to this. They keep saying no to it. They have to now feel like they have to respond. Because normally what happens is they will do this and they will ignore the fan base, or they'll try to say something along the lines of, well, these are just a small group of the fandom that are, and they have done this, by the way, but it's a small group of the fandom, and they should be ignored. They're racist. They're bigots. We don't care about them. But now they're having to come in here and say, oh, no. Like, they're being accused of tokenization, and they're trying to respond to that directly now. It's not tokenization. It's not. It is. It is. It's not even a question. The fact that they're having to respond to this directly now tells you how much damage the fans are doing. Keep doing it. Keep speaking out. Keep talking. Keep denouncing. Keep pointing out the flaws. Keep pointing out that these people are liars. That they're racists. That they're sexist. Because they are. They absolutely are. And keep pointing out that they are not focused on the story. They're not focused on elaborating or expanding what Tolkien said or talked about. That's not what they care about. They clearly care about telling a story that has modern politics injected into it. It's message first movie making. And that never works. It's message first filmmaking. Coin that. That's what it is. The fact that they have to respond to it tells you everything that you need to know about them. Read the whole series when I was 12 or so. Dropped Amazon Prime this year. Amazon Prime, look. Amazon Prime the terminal list is really good. It's really good. You know? So it's not like it's a complete loss. And like I said, you know, I hope this fails. And I want them to see what success looks like. That they've released two different things. The Terminal List was really good. It deserves praise. It was very successful. They need to continue to make stuff like this. Amazon Lord of the Rings, I hope it fails. I hope it bombs. After they spent millions and millions and millions, over $1 billion from what I understand is what their budget is. And it just bombs. No one wants to watch it. I hope it goes the way of the live action Cowboy Bebop. Because it'll teach them a lesson. They must have believed no one reads the books. Maybe. It almost seems like they glanced at the books. See also Apple TV's Foundation. They made a complete dog's breakfast of one of the greatest science fiction novels series of all time. Yeah, I tried to get into the Foundation, and just something about it was just not... It seemed like a great concept, but it just did not work for me. Worked back in the 40s or so, unfortunately. True. You mean in a house, right? Democrats still preaching Dr. King and practicing George Wallace after all these years. That's really good, John. I like that. I'm going to steal that from you. I'm stealing it. It's going to appear in an article out of nowhere, and you'll be like, I did that, but I'm going to take credit for it. Equal pay, now that is a quaint idea. That diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. Yeah. Nine, too much fight. The only black elf I know of is Dritz. Yeah, from that, I know, the dark elf. My buddy back a long time ago loved that series. He tried to get me into it. Amazon Prime has a lot of good history documentaries. That's the main reason we kept it. Go watch The Terminal List. I do like documentaries, just like learning new things. That's always fun. You know what I hope? I hope Amazon learned something very new here. Guys, that's it for me. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Follow me at the Brandon Morse on Twitter. Follow me at the Brandon Morse Live on Instagram. Go to redstate.com. Like the stream if you haven't already. Join VIP. Use promo code Morse on sign up. Gives you a discount. Really helps us out. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and letting me rant and rave about all my favorite subjects. If you have anything you want me to talk about, shoot me a DM. My DMs are open. You can suggest something and it will show up on the next RSL. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Thanks for hanging out. Enjoy your weekend. Peace!